Well, good morning, everybody. G-Bags from Our City Radio. And we're not just about musicians and artists and singer-songwriters. We also have a sports channel. This is a sports story. And this jersey I've got on here, there's a little history behind it. This gentleman and I came out of retirement at 52 years old to play in an adult baseball league here in Portland. We had to be 35 years and older. And it was a wooden back league. Back to the basics we played with as a kid. So the gentleman beside me, Rob Nelson, was our star left-handed pitcher, and we had quite a season. But most of the guys were all well over 50 years old. We competed against the youngsters, and a lot of us wanted to be LA Dodgers as kids. We couldn't do that, so we became Codgers. We were the Portland Codgers, and so I thought about when we had this interview today, let's bring the jersey over to give him a little bit of a chuckle. But some of you may remember Rob for his baseball skills, but more than anything, you're going to remember him for a product that he was the creator of.
You're in the big leagues when you make a perfect play. You're in the big leagues when you keep the team alive. You're in the big leagues when you block a shot or two. You're in the big leagues when you're in the big league chew.
Big League Chew, man-sized wads of great tasting shredded bubble gum stuffed into a giant Stay Fresh pouch. For Big League flavor and Big League bubbles, it's Big League Chew.
You're in the big leagues when you're in the big league chew.
I'm going to let him tell the story, but why don't you take us back to the dugout when this idea came about, wasn't it?
It was actually the bullpen.
You're in the bullpen.
In summer of 1977 in Portland, Oregon, Civic Stadium. Typical minor league bullpen, a lot of nonsense going on, a lot of banter, and a lot of chewing and spitting, and contests who could soil each other's shoes more than the next guy. And it just occurred to me that chewing tobacco is not a cool thing, wasn't healthy, didn't look good in my view, and I just simply came up with the idea for shredded bubblegum. And I shared it with a teammate, Jim Bouton, the former Yankee All-Star. And he had asked me, had you ever chewed tobacco? I said, I tried it once and never again. Probably 6 minutes of my life. And that was it. And then we were talking about tobacco and how disgusting it was. And I said, what do you think of the idea of shredding gum? So we'd look as good as these guys, but we could blow bubbles and we wouldn't get ill. And Jim said, gee, I really like that idea. And maybe an inning or two later, he said, what would you call it? And it was kind of a throwaway line when I said, I don't know, something like Big League Chew. And Jim's eyes got real big and he said, we should work on other names too, but it's going to be hard to top that one. I like that a lot. Long story short, that was the summer of 77. Over the next year and a half, Jim and I worked on the idea, and he ended up pitching it to a number of companies, and we were lucky to get into a small division of Wrigley, which was great because we were going out to Naperville, New York with the Amaral Products Company, a wholly owned subsidiary of Wrigley. So we had a small company to work with, but we had the clout of a big company in terms of distribution and in terms of marketing and all those things that you need. Amaral Products was kind of like Saturn was with General Motors. It was kind of semi-independent, and they were more willing to try wacky products. And let's face it, Big League Chew was off the chart and unusual, at least in terms of branding. As it turned out, it was a convergence because they had just come up with an idea of how to shred gum so that the shreds wouldn't stick to each other, but they really didn't know what to do with it. They thought of Popeye shredded spinach and pasta and some other kind of silly ideas. But the cool thing about the Wrigley people was that when they saw the idea that we had, they went with it. They could have said no thanks because we didn't have a patent on shredded gum any more than McDonald's owns a patent on chopped beef. But we did have a trademark, and they love the name Big League Chew. So they could have come up with something else. They could have had bullpen bubblegum or something. But they did the right thing.
They stayed with the name you thought of?
They did the right thing. And the amazing thing was our first deal with them was a 3-year deal. They thought this would be a cool novelty. And here we are 3 decades plus later. It's still out there. Not made by Wrigley any longer. They were bought out by Mars. They're kind of a large company, and I was lucky to find a USA company outside of Buffalo, New York, and now Big League Chew is made in Little Akron, New York by Ford Gum. The guys have been awesome.
If anybody's played baseball out there, you've heard of Big League Chew, the very colorful packages that most Little League teams will have on their bench, high schoolers, college ball players, and This is the gentleman who was sitting in a minor league bullpen with an ex-New York Yankee ball player that created Big League Chew. Did you guys seriously, looking back now, ever dream it would get to what it is now and how successful it's been? And you're world renowned. Everybody knows your gum, man. Huh?
Yeah, you know, it's funny. I was looking at a documentary recently about rock and roll, and there's a Mick Jagger who's maybe 23 years old, and the interviewer said, "How long are you going to be able to do this?" And he, in his British accent, which I can't do, he said, "You know, we've got enough songs probably for another year." You know, and that was like 1965. You know, and that's kind of how I feel about Big League Chew. I remember telling my dad, because I had a teaching degree, and I said, "This will be great. I won't have to paint houses in the summer. That the gum will take care of that." And we were happy with the 3-year deal, and it just kept. It became a series of 5-year deals, and this is Big League Chew's 35th year. I mean, it's preposterous.
What is sales volume? What do you guys do in a year around the world? Do you know exactly?
Well, you know, it's mostly a made in the USA product. We don't have much of an overseas presence, at least not now.
Right.
I think that will happen, but we probably do. You know, when Ford Gum took over, they've improved the sales by 50%. So we're up to about $15 million worth of gum a year, which is a little more than $1 million a month of shredded gum. And we have bubblegum balls now to just kind of expand the brand a little bit. But Big League Chew, the one thing I felt right from the beginning was that Big League Chew was kind of a one-off product. And this is one of the reasons that Jim Bout and I are no longer partners. We had an amicable split, and I bought him out. But Jim wanted to expand into other big league areas. And I can remember saying to Jim that sometimes you get it right. Like Cracker Jacks or WD-40. Big League Chew is what it is. I don't think we could have come out with, for example, a Big League root beer, and we would have gotten the same reaction. When people first saw Big League Chew, they said, "Holy cow, this is so funny and so cool. It's such a fun option." And the best number that I've read recently, government statistics, U.S., Department of Agriculture, the whole idea was that Big League Chew would be the fun alternative to stuff that wasn't good for you. And sure enough, 35 years later, sales of tobacco in a pouch are down over 60% since Big League Chew came out. Now, is it because of Big League Chew? I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't think so. But I just think that players realize, hey, this is a fun alternative. And I love seeing a guy make a great catch to end an inning in the big leagues, and as he's jogging off the field with a dopey grin on his face, he just blows a humorous bubble. And I just think, what a great message to kids that if you're going to choose smart, choose bubblegum. It's fun. It's not childish. It's childlike. And Jim Bowden said to me a long time ago, he said, "You know, you've got the mind of an 11-year-old." And he said, I say that with all due respect. And he was right. It was an idea only that could come out of a bullpen. The whole thing to me is still preposterous.
You know, it's funny you mentioned you only chewed what once or twice, and I think
Once.
See, this is back in mid-'70s when we were playing college ball, and you'd have those guys sitting beside you with a wad the size of a golf ball and a puddle in front of them, 2 feet round.
Yeah.
You'd step on it, your glove would drop into it. They'd have spitting contests.
Not pretty.
I did it 2 or 3 times. I became so nauseous I had to spin. I think we were down at spring training at UC Davis. I had to get in the back of the van. I went white, sweating, nauseous. I said, "I'm not a tobacco chewer." But what I remember when you guys first came out, it was more of a novelty. Like, this is a cool idea. Huh.
Yeah, you thought it would come and go.
Oh, yeah. No one dreamt. Here, 35-something years later, it's still here. There is a story you don't go into, and you see Big League Chew. Who does all your artwork? That's always interested me.
Well, the original fellow was a guy out of Atlanta, Bill Mayer, and he had a background with Mad Magazine type characters,
Okay.
and that's why those guys have that kind of deranged look. And then the art department, Gary Rose, who was with Wrigley at the time, did a lot of the fellows who are on there now, more of a superhero type look. Excuse me, and we'll probably transition that. What I would like to do is morph the characters into back a little bit towards the Mad Magazine type guys with a little bit of the superhero edge, but as long as it says fun on the pouch, it really doesn't matter what you put on there. You know? So we got lucky with the artist. Bill Mayer is iconic. I mean, if you Google the Bill Mayer, And you see the work that he's done above and beyond Big League Chew. The fellow's a magician. He's just really, we were very lucky to get somebody that good from the get-go. It just added to the whole mystique of what is this stuff?
Well, that is a lot of it for the packaging. You know it's got the gum inside, but so much of the fun of it is when you hand it to a young little leaguer and he looks at that caricature of a ball player on the front. That just makes it so much cooler. So let's go into baseball a little bit, man.
My dad had sent me some sports clippings. I read about a team in Portland, Oregon. That's how I ended up here trying out for the independent Portland Mavericks team. They would accept anybody for a tryout. And frankly, I was too old for single A ball beyond an independent team, and there was only one team to go to at the time.